Did you know buying a house in Europe could cost you over 400,000 euros more than you expect? After speaking with over 100 European home buyers, I discovered that almost everyone skips one crucial step that ends up costing them hundreds of thousands in hidden costs. So in this video, I will reveal what this step is and give you a free tool to help you make an easier and better financial decision while protecting yourself from this common trap most people never see coming. But first, here's why skipping this step could destroy your finances. Back in 2015, interest rates across Europe were extremely low. Naturally, people thought it was a good moment to take a mortgage and buy their own home. This caused demand to explode, and so did the prices. And now, a house that was sold for 500,000 euros back in 2015 will now cost 800,000 euros. But at the same time, salaries didn't change much, so for most Europeans, buying a house today is financially brutal. But skipping this step, it turns brutal into disastrous. Many Europeans admit they had to cut back on basic expenses, even essentials like food, to be able to keep paying their mortgage. Most people think, my mortgage is cheaper than what I would pay in rent, and now the house is mine. I'm not wasting money. I'm even saving money. It feels like a smart move because you're not throwing away money on rent anymore. But thinking this way can lead you into an expensive trap because you are not considering the whole picture. There are many non-neglectable hidden and variable costs that people don't consider most of the time, and they end up paying the price, literally. Sometimes even risking losing their own house. Which leads to the next big question. What are these costs? Well, think about your car, for example. When you bought it, you probably thought the price and maybe the insurance were the main costs to cover, right? But then reality hits and you realize you have to pay for gas, taxes, tires, parking, maintenance, tolls, car wash, and much more. Without realizing it, you're spending way more than you first thought. With a house, it's this times 100. Because the hidden cost of a house can quickly and easily add up to tens of thousands of euros. So if you don't plan for them, you risk not being able to keep up with your mortgage payments. So what are these expenses? They vary a little between countries, but the major expenses remain very similar. So let's go through a real example together using the housing cost calculator I've created. It's easy to use but accurate enough to help you take into account the costs most people ignore. You can download it for free in the description. And you can follow along using the same data I'll show in the video to understand how it works, or you can just go ahead and put your own numbers. So first I'll start with a house price 250,000 euros, which is the European average, and I will assume a standard 30-year mortgage. Now, let's go through all the purchasing costs. So, the down payment is typically 20% of the house price, but it will depend on your specific mortgage, so don't forget to adapt that. Then, notary and legal fees run around 2% of the purchase price. Sometimes, depending on your country, you might also have to take into account agency fees, which are crazy expensive at 4% on average. Let's put that in. Then property transfer tax varies a lot by location, so I'll use an average 5%, but feel free to adapt it to your own reality. And if you don't know it, you can easily find that on Google. According to your specific mortgage, you might also have to face mortgage fees, which are extremely variable, so I will estimate 1,000 euros. Now, renovation costs are often forgotten and underestimated, but they have an enormous impact. On average, a renovation will cost you about 65,000 euros plus 30,000 for furniture and appliances. So overall, the one-off cost you would need to buy this house would be over 170,000 euros, which is way more than the down payment that most people focus on to estimate their buying costs. How much did you get using your own numbers? Let me know in the comments. Okay, now let's look at the ongoing annual costs. The first to consider is the monthly mortgage payment. As you see, I put both a best and a worst case scenario. Why is that? Well, as it recently happened, interest rates change over time, and most people will see their mortgage rates evolve as well. This means your monthly payment will also probably change at some point. Now, it is impossible to know how it will change, but planning for both extremes will give you a much clearer picture of how affordable a home truly is. And to calculate the mortgage payments, you can just use any online calculator like this one. In this case, I will estimate at 2% for the best case and 6% for the worst case scenario. the real rate will probably fall somewhere in between. Then there are property taxes, insurance, utilities, and building fees, which vary by location and property type, so I will use European averages. I encourage you to find the exact values for your location and property type to get an even more realistic and accurate result. So in this case, let's go with 0.5% for property tax, 450 euros for insurance, 3,500 for utilities, and 500 for building fees. Next is one of the most underestimated and overlooked costs you will have: maintenance. Industry estimates suggest budgeting 1% of your home's value annually for newer properties and 2% for older ones. Then you should also plan for eventual future renovations. As a rule of thumb, most homes require a complete renovation every 30 years. Obviously, this will depend on you, but here I will estimate 80,000 euros, since in 30 years the prices will be higher due to inflation. Then down here I've also added some additional cells for country-specific considerations like tax deductions or other local costs. Again, it is important to research any potential specificity in your own country in order to get the most realistic outcome. So we've made our estimations, and now the big question is, how much does it actually cost owning a house? Well, you can see that even though in the best case scenario the monthly mortgage payment is around 700 euros, the actual monthly housing cost is about 1,700 euros, which over 30 years could mean a difference of over 400,000 euros compared to what you planned for. I was shocked by this number when I found out. This is a huge difference, and it is exactly what makes people struggle to pay for their house, forcing them to cut other expenses to keep up with the mortgage. Because remember, your mortgage payment will always be the minimum you will pay. So if you are considering buying a house, please take into account all these costs to get a better picture of your expenses. It will definitely help you make the best financial decision for your situation. But this brings up an even bigger question. With all these hidden costs, is buying a house still worth it? Well, the short answer is it depends on your own specific situation. In some cases, buying is better than renting, but in others, like mine, renting is financially better and it saves me over 20,000 euros per year. But understanding what's the right decision for you isn't that easy. And so I have built a new free tool that helps you figure it out in just a couple of minutes. And in this next video, I will show you how to use it step by step so that you can make the smartest decision for your future.